We use may to express ability, permission, and probability. To express ability, to express permission, and to even express probability. Something that will happen or will not happen. Probability could mean, a maybe thing. A maybe thing, kind of. So you see, you may leave now, meaning you are giving the permission to leave now. You may leave now, very formal, kind of. You may leave now. You are allowed to go. You may call later on. Is probability. You may call later on. Okay. One good thing may and might. One thing you have to notice that may and might share a common ground. Is that they two of these words express probability, but the probability or possibility expressed by may is highly likely to happen, whereas the probability or possibility expressed by might is less likely to happen. So imagine if a friend, gives me or invites me to, his birthday party, and then I think, of course, I have a number of work to do. I have to wash my clothes. I have to clean the house. Probably I've got to prepare something for my very self, and then the party will begin at 9 o'clock, and I will not finish doing my work till around 10 o'clock. Meaning the possibility of me attending the birthday party is somewhat rare. It's kind of remote possibility. It's maybe that I will go, but the fact that I have to work till 10, then the birthday party will begin at 9 o'clock, for instance. Then the possibility is very remote. I would say, for instance, I might honor your invitation. I might honor your invitation. So you see, the probability what is less likely. But of course, if I only have one thing to do, that is to what? To wash and then probably have some food, then of course the birthday party will take place at 9, will commence at 9, and of course I'll of course get myself, things will be very easy for me. I will find freedom after I've taken my bath, and then after I've in fact having my meal. I will of course have 3 or 4 hours before even time. I will say, because there is possibility, and the possibility is so very high. It's not remote. I will say I may honor your invitation. I may honor your invitation. So meaning the possibility is highly likely. So when it's less likely, you use might. When it's highly likely, you use what? You use, of course, when it's highly likely, you use may. When it's less likely, you use might. That's the key thing to have in mind about when using may. Then we'll use may to ask permission. But it's what? It's very, very formal at that. May I come in, sir? May I sit here, sir? May I inform you about what kind? So it is, you use may in formal context. See, can I sit here, sir? Is informal. But may I sit here, sir? Is highly formal, of course. So you see, we come down to should. Okay? We use should to express advice. To express advice. So imagine you should be more careful. You should be more careful at that. So you see here we are kind of expressing advice, and you should have consulted a lawyer. Again, here we are expressing the same thing, but of course same thing in the past. In this case, could have been something advisable that, of course, it's proved worthy that you should have what sought the advice of a lawyer. That's what this second one means. Okay, but it's in the past. What is key here? Two of them are expressing advice. So remember, have the meanings of these modal verbs in mind. Very, very, very essential. Knowing how to use them helps a lot. They transfer their meaning to the action verb or to the main verb, and together, of course, you see what happens. And then we proceed on to the other kind. We have the modal must. The modal must. The modal must expresses obligation and strong belief. Obligation or must. Something compulsory. So we use must. Must. So must could be used to express obligation or something compulsory or strong belief. Strong belief, like what? For instance, Kadi must be around 30 years. Kadi must be around 30 years of age, for instance. Kadi, that could be strong belief. Kadi must be around 30 years of age. It's a strong belief. Okay? Or to express obligation, something you must do, something compulsory. So you must reconsider your decision. This one is what? An obligation. You must have lost your wallet while you were playing football. This one is a strong belief. Strong belief. You are expressing a very strong belief, something like that. Okay? So we come down to the must not and not have to, still under the issue of must. So if we use must not, we are talking about something that is forbidding, something that you must not do. Must not, something forbidding. But again, if we use not have to means it's no obligation. You have no obligation. If you so like, you can do it, and if you so like, you of course not do it, kind of. So when you say not have to, you are talking about no obligation. But if you say must not, you are talking about something forbidden. Must not is forbidden. If you use must not, is forbidding. And when you use not have to, is about obligation. Something, it's about no obligation, something you are not being coerced to do. If you so feel like doing it, you are at liberty to do. And if you so feel like not doing it, you are same way, so at liberty not to. So very essential. So let's go, please. You must not smoke here. It's what? It is actually forbidden not to do that, please. You must not smoke here. It is forbidding. But if you say, for instance, you don't have to do this, if you so wish, you can do it. If you, of course, you think otherwise, you will not. So meaning, you may, you may if you wish, but but it's not compulsory at that. So you don't have to do this. You may follow the request, or if you so like, you can of course dash it at that. So you see, on that must. So must not, forbidding. Not have to, no obligation. Okay? Actually, it will be that you are being told not to do something, but you have no obligation. You owe nobody. You owe nobody any obligation. So if you so feel like doing it, you can do it. And if you feel like not doing it again, you can of course discard it altogether like that. So must not is about something forbidding. Okay, not have to is about what? Something you have no obligation. Although you might have been told to do something, but you have no obligation to do it. If you feel like doing it, is fine. So we proceed on to the next one. Must and have to. In fact, linguists and global leaders, when it comes to English, in fact, have argued about must and have to. Some say must is too harsh to use. It is better we use have to. Okay, people like for instance David Crystal, the global leading authority in English, of course, have found reason to say, in fact, language is adjusting to reflect change. That in fact using must sounds very forceful. You should say have to instead. Okay, but of course we have to be very clear about what should be correct, what should be the correct element. We actually have to delve through what actually are the meanings. What's the meaning of must, and what could be the meaning of have to, when they are to be of course put in a comparative scale. When we have to put must and have to in a comparative scale to weigh their meaning, survey the circumstances, and see how see where we can use them, and then see what sounds better to use at that. So must is more about personal obligation. Must is about personal obligation. Okay, but have to is about impersonal obligation. Something, a rule, a kind of a rule. You have no option, but you have to go by the rule. It's not something somebody imposes on you, but what is something generally, it's a rule you have to go by. When you say when you say have to, but if you say must is a personal thing. You must do this. You must do this. You must do this is highly, of course, personal. It's highly personal, but you have to do this. It's not personal. It's a rule. It's a rule that you have to go by. You don't have any option to skip it at that. That could be the first meaning they share. So let's come here. You um you must drink this tablet. You must drink. You must drink this tablet. You must drink this tablet. And here you see we have you are not being obliged to drink them. I only require you to what? I mean, you are required to drink them, and then it's something I personally require you to drink them. Of course, I personally require you to drink them. It's a personal kind of belief, as opposed to the issue of have to, which is what, which is of course impersonal, something that of course a rule. So you have to go. You are obliged to go. There is a rule requiring you to go. A rule about, of course, going at that. So must, you are obliged to do it, and the obligation is very personal at that. Have to, again, you are obliged to do it, and the obligation of what is a general rule at that. I hope I'm making sense. So must is a personal belief. I mean, personal obligation. Okay, impose. I mean, personal obligation imposes upon somebody. But have to is a general, I mean, obligation. Imposes on what? Upon somebody like that. That could be the first meaning they share. There are meanings about them again. The other meaning they have, okay, could be that, in fact, have to expresses general obligation. General obligation, whereas must expresses specific obligations. Have to, general obligation. Of course, must, specific obligation at that. Very, very essential to note. So we go back to the meanings these two words have in common. Now, must is a personal obligation. The first one, okay. Whereas have to is a general rule you have to go by. The other meaning for must is talking about specific obligation. Whereas the other meaning we have for, of course, have to is about general obligation. Having this meaning in mind, very, very essential. So when you speak, you have less trouble. When you write, you have less trouble. Why? Because you know them. Example, I have to brush my teeth twice a day. So have to here again, you see, I mean, it's expressing a kind of general rule. You know, we all know we have to. It's a general rule. It's a general obligation. We have to. We just have to. You cannot say you must brush your teeth, but you say we have to brush our teeth. It's a general rule. Well, we all know, of course, if we don't brush our teeth, what will happen, of course? They will go decay. And when they go decay, we all know the consequence, the offshoot of that. So, I must tell you something. Must here is what? It's a specific obligation, and a kind of what? A kind of personal, again, obligation. Specific and, of course, personal at that. Any general obligation, use have to. If it is personal and specific, use what? Use must. Very essential. So we come down to the semi-modal ought to, okay? So we use ought to express advice or obligation. To express advice or obligation, advice. So ought to, we have here, you ought to review my case. You ought to review my case is what? Is obligation. You ought to do this. Imagine a client, telling his or her, of course, lawyer about reviewing the case. Could be not advice, but of course something compulsory. Well, that could be one element about how to use, in fact, on how to use ought to. We come down to the other meaning. You ought to knock at the door. It's a kind of advice. You ought to knock at the door, and it's a kind of advice. The kind of advice. I don't say an advice. Very wrong English. It's a kind of advice. It's a kind of advice you have to, of course, fulfill. You have to go by. You don't have to just, enter somebody's house like that. You have to, of course, knock at the door. General rule. So you have to. Again, you see, you have to knock at the door. General rule. General obligation. But again, it could be advice. You ought to knock at the door. So you see, we understand this one step a lot. So you play with them like that. So you ought to knock at the door. Fine. So we proceed with need. Okay. Need could be could be a modal. Meaning, if we use need as a modal verb, it must come in a sentence that is negative. It must be used in a sentence with negative words or negative idea that. Okay? So, and they should not take S, irrespective of whether the subject is singular or plural. We must never add S to them because of course they are modal in this case. So of course here we have an example. No one need think that way. No one need think that way. So no one gives us a negative idea. So in normal sentence, if we add to after need, we will add S to need. Example, no one needs to think that way. So we can add S to need if we add to after need. To, I mean to. If we add to after need. But of course, if you have only need in this case and a verb after need supposed not to take any S because need is a modal verb in this context, please. And if we use need in this circumstance, it should be used in a sentence or sentences with negative connotations. So no one need think that way. Correct? Again, nobody need know the name of the person who made the complaint. So if we add to after need, then we'll add S to need. Nobody needs to know the name of the person who made the complaint. But need in this case, you see, the idea is negative and the components are the negativity is of course nobody at that. Again, not a thing need change on this page. Not a thing need change on this page. You see again, here we have what? We have need, no S to it. So this is one way we use need as what? As a modal verb at that. Very, very essential. So let's have a look at some questions regarding modals. We come down to the first one. Dash, you turn down the volume of the radio, please. I'm trying to read. Dash, you turn down the volume of the radio, please. I am trying to read. June 2018, last year. So A, we have here, may you turn down the volume of the radio, please? No. Okay? So we are not asking somebody else's permission. Okay? So A is wrong, may is wrong here because A can be used to ask permission about probability that is very high at that. So B, we have should you turn down the volume of the radio, please? Doesn't of course sound well in this context. C, we have would you turn down the volume of the radio, please? Is fine because we are what? We are making a polite request. Very fine at that. Will you turn down? No. So our answer is what? Is option C. During her early days in school, she does study for hours. For hours. For hours. Well, of course you know why I say for hours, but we'll say for hours. During her early days in school, she does study for hours. Okay? 2018. Again, remember in our last class, I told you we can use used to talk about what? Past habitual activity. Used to. USED. Used to. So we say in place of used to, we can use would to mean the same thing. To mean past, to refer to past habitual activity. See, when I was in the village in my teens, I used to go to church every Thursday, for instance, every Thursday. Or when I was in the village during my teens, I would go to the church every Thursday at that. So you will use would in place of what? In place of used to mean the same thing. So, and this sentence here is about giving us a clue about past habitual activity. So during our early days in school, you see, so the person is no longer in school again. So she does study for hours. And A, we have would study for hours. It's fine. Also mean she used to study for hours. B, we have what? May study, no. C, we have shall study, no. And D, we have can study, no. Of course, shall is, we use shall to talk about of course future. I shall be there, or to even ask permission Shall I go? You can just use that one again. Shall I go, for instance? And we can also use shall a kind of to a kind of something command, a command, strong command at that. In the Bible, you see, thou shalt not eat this food. It's a strong command at that. So can you shall for command again? You see, when you use shall for command, we will use shall with what? With you or the third person. Third person mean he, she, whatever. Third person, or even each of they are that. You see, they shall bite. If they break it, they shall bite. You are kind of commanding them. They shall bite. Okay, they shall eat this food, commanding them. So you add the, I mean, shall in that case. You see, you will use shall in a commanding, shall I say, circumstance like that. So he dash be fat, but he is still smart. He dash be fat, but he is still smart. June 2014. So he may be fat. You know, we use may, talk about what? Possibility again. Possibility, I told you. The possibility is highly likely at that. Okay? Then we use could, you know the meaning. And we have here, he dash be fat, A is our answer. B could be fat, C can be fat, no, D must be fat. Our answer is what? He may be fat, but he is still what? Smart at that. This is what? Economies and work. This is economies and the work. There should be no argument about it. This is economies and the work. There should be no argument about it. No argument about it underscores the certainty about what should come here. The certainty about the elements to fill this blank space. Okay? So this is economies and the work. There be, might be, no, might of course is expressing a possibility that is less likely. May is likely, but can here is expressing something that is, of course, I mean, that is strong belief, of course. You see, that is this is the and the work. There can be no argument about it. So our answer is C. Not that there may be no argument about it or be no argument about it. Can supposed to be the correct one to use there. If the policeman hadn't shown me the way, I dash have gone astray. Well, this one actually is about what we refer to as conditional sentence. Okay, I will give you a idea about this one in our subsequent edition. I will have to deal with conditional sentence, but of course we haven't dealt with anything dealing with tenses yet. So after tenses, we will look at if clauses, what we refer to as, conditional sentence. So of course, if the policeman hadn't shown me the way, okay, this is condition 3. Of course, I'm very sorry because I have not even told you anything about this idea, this concept yet. But of course, let's proceed because we have models here. So I dash have gone astray. Okay, remember 2015. So will is wrong because we have here a past perfect tense. What we require? We require a future perfect conditional, meaning would have. We require the would have here. Would have. If you have hadn't in the if aspect, you require would have in the other clause. Okay? So of course, we don't need will at all. B shall know. C should know. D what should be would. So would is the best we use for future perfect conditional. So if the policeman hadn't shown me the way, I would have gone astray. Should not be I should have gone astray, but should be I would have gone astray. We call this one third conditional at that. Now we come to the next question. This is called handwriting. You see, in fact, WAEC is repeating same question almost with slight changes. You see, get back to see. Look at this question carefully speaking. Okay, and then get back to this first one again. You see, they are like the same. You see, they are repeating. Yeah, it's 2017. Yeah, it's 2012. You see, kind of. So this is continuous handwriting. Instead of saying handwork, the changes to handwriting. There should be no argument about it. And thankfully, we have our answer is what? It's also C here. And then they change the options, maintaining the correct option. So going through past questions for us is very essential. So we come down to we are going for a break. When we come back, we will look at some interesting element dealing with pronunciation.